Now, our final story tonight, a breakthrough in the field of human organ transplantation, hybrid animal-human organs. And they could just be the solution to both the global shortage of transplant organs as well as to the risk of implant rejection.
Once, only nature decided how animals would evolve, but now humans are taking over that role. Today, scientists mix the genes of different species, creating hybrid animals that seem like they belong in science fiction. It's like remixing a song, but with DNA. Here are 20 hybrid animals created by scientists that you won't believe exist. Number 20. The human pig chimera. We've got to be careful about this one because I don't want you going and getting the wrong idea here. This isn't about a pig and human offspring, but rather about a process that showed that humans and pig cells could work together and grow into something special. Now, if you're confused, I'll explain without trying to gross you out too much. You see, in the field of medicine, one of the things that doctors need plenty of but don't have enough to go around are human organs. Organs that are composed mainly. There are people all over the world who need organ transplants, and yet sadly there aren't enough to give, and thus people end up dying. So, scientists have been working on ways to try and circumvent that as scientifically as possible. Their theory is that if they could introduce human cells into an animal host, they could grow organs through that animal and then give them to humans. Well, they found out that pigs honestly could do that, as disgusting as it sounds. And to be clear, they haven't actually been able to grow full organs, but they were able to introduce human cells into pigs, and those cells not only worked, but they actually grew. So, if some big changes are made and organs are able to be reproduced in pigs, this could potentially save a whole lot of lives. And that's worth being grossed out a little bit, right? Number 19. Killer bees. Now, if you need more proof that there are serious dangers in making fused animals, look no further than the infamous Africanized bees, aka the killer bees, because these were made to do an honorable thing. But then things went wrong, and now they're one of the biggest menaces in the Western Hemisphere. But how could things go so wrong? Well, the killer bees were a fusion of certain subspecies of bees. The intention of doing this was honey production. Specifically, the bees would be sent to places like Brazil to help with making more honey for them. Except they didn't account for the fact that the bees wouldn't react well to the heat of Brazil. In case you didn't know, it's really hot there, and thus they would not actually make the honey. Then, a couple of swarms of bees escaped and made their way from South America to Central America and then to North America, where their traits were experienced in the worst of ways. These bees don't really like to be bothered, ever. And when any of them feel threatened, they'll swarm and sting people in order to get them away from them and the hive and so on. This results in many things, including death, and these truly are killer bees, and there are stories to prove it. Just remember, though, it wasn't a natural thing. Scientists are the ones to blame. Number 18. Blood parrot cichlid fish. Now, I've already talked about some interesting fusions, but how about one that involves fish? At first, it wouldn't be seen as that bad, but it depends on what's made out of it. In this case, I'm talking about the blood parrot cichlid fish. This creature is produced by crossing the Midas cichlid and the red-headed cichlid, and the blood parrot cichlid's genetic mixture has left the fish with a combination of physical traits that compromise the fish's ability to thrive. Not exactly what you were expecting, was it? For example, the blood parrot has a very tiny mouth, which wouldn't be bad in some cases, but for this fish, it's so small that it can't even eat what it wants in order to survive, and that's not good. There are even some activists out there who are trying to get this fish boycotted, in the sense that it won't be bred anymore and, more importantly, absolutely not sold at pet shops. But the problem? Well, while it may be a fish that can be hard to survive on its own, it's a looker in terms of being a unique fish to behold. What's more, it has a good habit of being a good co-inhabitant of an ecosystem of fish, and so people want to keep it around. Either way you look at it, the blood parrot cichlid fish is proof that if you get into genetic tinkering, it can sometimes lead to very disastrous effects. Number 17. Belgian Blue. The Belgian Blue is a very special kind of cattle that was made via some very selective hybrid breeding. You see, some very special bulls were exported from the UK to Belgium during the 19th century. When that occurred, they began to be put with the rest of the cattle population in order to incite some growth and improve the nation's population. Something that was honestly done in many countries, believe it or not. Eventually, after some fine-tuning, if you will, they got a species that put all the others to shame, and it's known as the Belgian Blue. The reason that this one stands out is because of its girth, or, in this case, the muscling. It's so big that it got the term double-muscled attached to it because it's just so bulky. And when it comes to cattle, that's honestly what you want. You want a big cattle that has those big muscles because it makes the meat so much better. Extensive research has shown that Belgian Blues possess a gene that suppresses the production of some chemical I can't pronounce, a protein that normally inhibits muscle growth after a certain point. And thus, that's why it has that double-muscled characteristic. It may seem wrong that this kind of thing happened, But trust me when I say that compared to some of the other things that ranchers and farmers do to get the best animals, trying out a new breed is honestly the least offensive. Mainly because it's kind of natural, Percy. Number 16. The human Z. If you thought that was a case of weird science, you don't know the half of it. You see, you may think that the idea of fusing human beings and other animals together was only a recent kind of thing because of the advancements of technology. However, it's not. Not even close. In fact, people like mad scientists have had this idea for decades, and one person even claimed that a scientist in the 1920s was able to make the first ever human Z by giving human DNA to a female monkey and reproducing a spawn. Now it's time to be grossed out. What's more, the person who made this claim about the century-old research project said that the spawn was indeed a live birth. Most hybrid animals are unnatural and die in stillbirth events, which would obviously make this a revolutionary move if it were true. But why do we believe that it's not true? Well, just think about this in non-gross terms. First, it would be a radical thing in all the ways that matter. Second, if the scientist was able to make it work, why didn't they get the credit for it? Or, just as importantly, why didn't they do it again? Not to mention that the person was from Florida, and we all know how their minds work, so that's why you don't go and believe everything that you read. Number 15. Super ball python. Sometimes you just have to wonder if people mix certain species of the same animal together just to see what happens, because that's exactly what occurred with the super ball python species. In fact, they're calling it a designer species, believe it or not, because scientists are mixing and matching these pythons in terms of genes, all in order to see what new looks they can get out of the ball pythons. But while some are going to be happy with the fashionable snakes, there's a cost to all of it, and I'm not talking monetary. You see, it took years to get a pack of baby ball pythons to be born, and even then they ended up struggling. This is because of the simple fact that, though you can mix the various species of animals, it doesn't mean that you should. Sometimes gene splicing just doesn't work out, and the animals die off because they aren't as advanced as they need to be to survive. All of that being said, the study of the super ball python does state that it has certain advantages over its parents, which include having a wider diet and reproducing at an earlier age. Still, you just have to wonder if these designer snakes are really a good idea at all. Number 14. Zebroids. Now I'm getting back into the weird territory of hybrid animals because the name Zebroids isn't just one animal. It's actually a group name for any animal that came from a zebra in part. For example, there's the zorse, which happens if you mix a male zebra and a female horse, because of course you'd name it a zorse. Of course, it makes perfect sense. And as you can see, it very much looks like a hybrid animal you would expect because it looks like the perfect fusion of a zebra and a horse. It has the body type of a horse with the stripes of the zebra, but the coloring of the horse as well. What's more, it's been noted that the zorse has certain resistances that are found in zebras. But why does all of that matter? Well, that means that, despite being part horse, it's actually better suited for certain things that would heavily affect a regular horse. In this case, the fusing actually does some good. But if I'm being honest, it's just weird to look at. It's hard to rationalize that kind of fusing. And though it does make something unique, is it all really worth it? And you'd have to imagine it wasn't easy to get these animals together in the first place. But life just finds a way, right? Number 13. Beefalo. This next one's going to be a little bit hard to talk about because the beefalo, as it is known, is absolutely a creature that's bred with purpose, and that purpose is to be killed for its meat. This yummy, tender, delicious, satisfying meat. Farmers mix a domesticated bull with a female American bison, and once they've bred, the beefalo is born, and it's honestly able to make its own offspring, something that doesn't always happen naturally with newly bred creatures. And that means that more beefalo are on the way. But, as noted, the main highlight of the beefalo is that they're able to produce much more beef overall than regular cattle, not to mention that they have the genes within them to make better meat. They produce leaner, more flavorful meat like bison, but are more docile and easier to raise like domestic cattle. And as you can guess, there are some who are not exactly happy about this for the right reasons because farmers essentially made a new species of animal just to murder them all for the purpose of making more money and having more products to sell. It's a slippery slope, and not the only cattle animal to fall into that category, which is why crossbreeding is so controversial in the eyes of many in the world. Where does one draw the line? Number 12. The Pisle Bear. Now we'll go to the obvious, a stupid name for a bear. That's right, it's a fusion between a polar bear and a grizzly bear, but you couldn't come up with a better fusion name than that? How about the Prize? That sounds so much better than what you guys are offering. Can we all vote on this? We demand a name change. And while we're collecting the votes, we'll talk about the soon-to-be name-changed bear known as the Pisle Bear, because here's a big twist for you. This is a bear species that happened naturally on its own, and it may have been in response to climate change. You see, polar bears are, of course, known for living in harsh winter climates, while grizzly bears prefer forest areas. The polar bears have been moving south, while the grizzly bears have been going north. And when they mate, the new bears are actually able to handle the weather conditions much easier. It's a new type of bear that's more resilient to climate change and better suited for warmer temperatures. Now, if only humans could help stop climate change somehow. Number 11. Spider silk goats. Now, so far, I've seen all sorts of crossbreeding, from animals doing it themselves to others trying to breed unique results. But what about another example of a hybrid creation with a clear purpose? This time, I'm not talking about organs in other animals. I'm talking about silk. Are you confused? Well, don't worry, because it'll make sense soon, and it's not as odd as you may believe. If you were to be asked what animal could make something tougher than steel, spiders probably wouldn't be your first choice. But it's true, the silk that they use for their webs can be stronger than steel when woven in the right amounts. The problem is that spiders on their own take a long time to make enough webbing to make this worthwhile. So science decided to speed things up a bit, and to do that, they needed goats. No, don't get the wrong idea here. It's not that. Rather, the scientists went and infused certain DNA into the goats' bellies so that the milk they produce would have silk within it. Put that in enough goats and get them to make the silk on the regular, and suddenly you have a whole lot of it to use to make tough bandages, body armor, and more. It's all a little bit crazy, but you have to admit, it's also a little bit clever. Number 10. Koy Wolf. The Koy Wolf name is actually the name of a fusion between a wolf and a coyote. And before you rage against the machine and shout, "What idiot human had this idea?" It wasn't a human creation at all, which honestly makes it a bit more terrifying. Because, you see, in certain areas of the world, coyotes and wolves are meeting up and breeding. What makes the Koy Wolf particularly unique is that it blends the adaptability of the coyote with the physical strength of a wolf, creating a hybrid that's not only smarter but also tougher. They've been spotted primarily in the northeastern United States and parts of Canada, thriving in both wild and urban environments. And the Koy wolves that they make as a result of that are a bit, well, more intense than anyone would prefer. These hybrids can grow larger than either of their parents, with stronger jaws and increased stamina, allowing them to take down larger prey like deer. According to experts, they have the instincts of wolves and the desire to hunt in packs, and yet they have the fearlessness of the coyote, especially when it comes to being fearless around humans and their homes. As one would put it, we're seeing evolution in action, and evolution is breeding an even fiercer canine than before. With this new hybrid roaming the countryside and cities alike, the Koy Wolf presents an unpredictable challenge to both wildlife and humans. Number 9. The Geep. That's right, another dumb name. Do you realize that we don't have to just fuse two original animal names together? We could come up with something new. In Ireland, a farmer found out that a goat wanted to get with one of his sheep. He admitted that he had no idea what was happening until there was the Geep. Seriously, what a dumb name. The Geep, as bizarre as it sounds, is an extremely rare hybrid and often doesn't survive long after birth due to genetic differences between the two species. The farmer was shocked, not just because of the odd pairing, but because the Geep showed signs of being stronger and more agile than typical lambs. It even had a unique coat texture, neither fully woolly like a sheep nor coarse like a goat, which made it stand out even more among the herd. The farmer had never seen anything like that before and added that his family had been involved in sheep farming for generations. It goes to show that the animal kingdom is able to have some surprises for you. Just as important was that the Geep was not only healthy after being born but could very easily see the effects of the mixed genes that it had. For example, it was born at the same time as other lambs. However, the Geep was much faster as a whole. It's rare and usually dies out young, so this is something truly special to behold. Given its rarity and the complexity of its genetic makeup, this Geep has become a fascinating topic for both farmers and scientists alike. Number 8. The Liger. Now I'm going to talk about a fusion that absolutely works in the best of ways possible. Of course, the legendary Liger. This is one of the big cats, and as the name suggests, it's what happens when you mix a male lion and a female tiger. Though technically, the reverse also works. The result of that fusion is a very massive beast that's honestly bigger than both of its parents by a wide margin. And if you don't believe me, well, the average Liger is about 12 feet long. They're also really heavy creatures, but that doesn't stop them from running over 30 miles per hour on the ground. Can you believe anything this big can run 35 miles per hour? They're truly fierce predators, no doubt. The catch with it all, though, is that there are only a handful of these ligers in the world, and for reasons that you could probably guess. That's right, these are natural but not abundant. In fact, they're usually born on accident. That's what they all say, right? Or because humans wanted a liger. So you're not likely to just see them in the wild, but that doesn't mean it's not cool when you do. For example, at one zoo, there's a liger named Hercules, and this particular liger is the biggest of the bunch and holds the world record. So long live the liger. Number 7. The Jag Lion. The Jag Lion is a fusion between the jaguar and the lion. But come on man, think of a cooler name to pay homage to these big cats. It should also be noted that the Jag Lions are yet another example of a very rare breed of animal because there are less than a handful of them in the entire world. At one point, there were only 2 and they were both in zoos. The striking appearance of the Jag Lion combines the muscular build and distinctive rosettes of the jaguar with the mane and stature of the lion, making them truly unique-looking animals. Now you may think this is another forced breeding, but apparently that wasn't the case for the originals. The first recorded Jag Lions were born at the Bear Creek Wildlife Sanctuary in Ontario, where the male jaguar and female lion formed a bond so strong that the zoo allowed nature to take its course. According to those in the zoo, the male jaguar and the female lion were raised together and were thus inseparable. Their close bond led to the unexpected hybrid birth, fascinating zookeepers and the public alike. Still, even with that, it's fair to say that this isn't a truly natural hybrid, and you shouldn't expect this to become a full-on species anytime soon. Though incredibly rare, the Jag Lion remains an intriguing example of how nature can surprise us with unusual yet beautiful creatures. Number 6. The Hfin. You didn't think I'd get back to the ocean, did you? O ye of little faith and water. But we're ending our list with something truly odd, the Hfin. This animal is made by crossbreeding the bottlenose dolphin and a false killer whale, which is quite a pair and, at first, would seem kind of random, right? However, there are some methods behind this clear madness. You see, they both live in tropical waters, and their species are known to congregate together in certain ways, and apparently that's enough for them to be able to mate. What a world we live in. And that's where things get really odd, not that they weren't odd before, mind you, because there are some who have said that they've seen Hfins in the wild, which would be interesting because they're very rare, as you can imagine. However, there's no proof of this, and currently, the only confirmed Hfins in the world are at zoos. Still, though, feel free to keep your eyes open for this unique species. Number 5. The Kama. The Kama is a very special animal because it's a very odd fusion between a camel and a llama. But do I need to say it? No, not the name, it gets a pass. But what in the world was somebody thinking in regards to trying to fuse a camel and a llama together? Did they just wake up one day and go, "Oh, I know. I should go and get a llama and a camel to mate. It'll be awesome." No, it's really not. The whole idea came from a desire to create an animal that could thrive in desert environments like a camel, but with the docility and wool production of a llama. Scientists hoped the hybrid would be more useful for wool production and able to survive harsh conditions. I say that because the first Kama was introduced into the world in 1995, but she was the only one that survived. The hybrid was created using artificial insemination, a process that proved challenging due to the genetic differences between the two species. It took another 13 years and better breeding techniques for the next 3 to be born. Despite these efforts, the Kama's temperament and appearance didn't quite meet expectations, showing traits from both parents but in unpredictable ways. So as of 2008, there are only 4 of these creatures on Earth. Even the team behind the animal admitted that it was difficult to breed, and that should have been a hint that you shouldn't have done it in the first place. While their experiment may have been an interesting scientific endeavor, the practical applications of the Kama remain questionable, leaving many to wonder why it was pursued at all. Number 4. The Mule. Now, I know you didn't see this one coming because, so far, I've talked about fusion animals that honestly seem unnatural and ones that are questionable on purpose. But in truth, there have been fused animals living alongside us for a very long time. One of them is indeed the mule. The mule is a fusion between a horse and a donkey. The results are very hardy, an animal that can carry heavy loads despite its body size and go long distances without getting tired. What's so interesting about this particular hybrid is that it's the oldest one that anyone knows about, and it can be proven as well. Mules were originally created in Turkey, and were used in Egypt around 3000 BC. Even back then, animal hybrids had been a topic of desire for humans, and in this case, they absolutely got the combination correct. Donkeys have been used for generations, and even now, with modern technology, they still have a purpose. So sometimes it does seem to work out to make these hybrids. Number 3. The Cheeto. Now, they weren't even trying with this one, were they? Did they realize that they were just one letter away from calling the cat in question an orange-covered snack food? I hope that wasn't the goal, but with breeders, you just never know. Yes, this particular cat was one of many that were made by cat breeders because, for one reason or another, breeders love to take certain types of cats and make a very exotic-looking specimen for people to own. It's a very big market, believe it or not, and the results are at times quite striking. In the case of the Cheeto, it's a fusion of an Ocicat and a Bengal cat. Not the Bengal tiger, but could you just imagine? Actually, don't imagine. That's really terrifying and disgusting. What makes the Cheeto truly unique is its wild, leopard-like spots combined with a gentle, almost dog-like loyalty, a combination that has cat enthusiasts buzzing. They're playful, energetic, and surprisingly affectionate for a breed that looks so wild. If you're curious, the Cheeto was thought up by Carol Dryman. She was hoping to create a new feline that would display the physical characteristics of a wild cat and the gentleness of a domesticated house cat. It worked, and she's been making them ever since. Thanks to her vision, the Cheeto has become one of the more sought-after hybrid cats, prized for its exotic look and friendly nature, though they come with a hefty price tag. Number 2. Pomsky Dog. Remember when I talked about those designer snakes and then those cats that were bred to be exotic? Well, it happens with dogs as well, and the Pomsky Dog is a great example. This is a cross between the Siberian Husky and the Pomeranian. This designer dog technically isn't a new breed because it's a mixture between two different confirmed dog breeds. Yeah, there are rules to this thing, apparently. But the reason they're getting made more and more is because people are seeing them online and are entranced by their looks, which I believe people would do. The Pomsky's fluffy coat and striking features, often resembling a miniature husky, have made them a viral sensation. But here's the catch. Their temperament can be unpredictable, too. While some might inherit the Pomeranian's playful, affectionate nature, others can take on the husky's stubborn independence, which could make training a challenge. The catch with the Pomsky is that what they'll look like is honestly very random. At times, they could look like huskies or wolves, and at other times, they resemble the Pomeranian side a whole lot more. It's honestly a coin toss. That also goes for how big they might get. One Pomsky could grow to be just 15 pounds, while another could easily reach 30 pounds or more, depending on which parent they take after. So while they are photogenic in the eyes of many, you might want to think about it a bit before going and getting one. Now it's time for today's topic. A Reddit thread recently leaked shocking information and an image that has left the scientific community and the internet reeling. In a remote lab deep within the forests of Washington state, a stunning discovery has surfaced. For years, rumors circulated about secret genetic experiments being conducted in a hidden lab, but nothing concrete had ever emerged, until now. The leaked image shows what appears to be a miniature elephant, no larger than a human thumb. The photo, believed to have been smuggled out by an anonymous source, has sparked wild theories and speculation. According to insiders, this tiny creature is the result of a hybrid experiment, an attempt to create a genetically modified elephant with a drastically reduced size. The lab, allegedly funded by a shadowy private organization, has been working on this project for nearly a decade. The goal? To create a version of the majestic elephant that could live in domestic settings, reducing the environmental strain of the species in the wild. However, some skeptics argue that this may be nothing more than an elaborate hoax. Critics point to the lack of verifiable information and suggest the image could be digitally manipulated. Still, the mystery persists. Could this tiny hybrid be real, or is it simply another internet rumor? As the debate rages on, many are left questioning what secrets are truly hidden within the depths of these covert labs. Number 1. Danra. Sometimes you have to wonder, what in the freaking heck is going on with some of these hybrids? Because here's another one that happened in a zoo. A Chinese zoo, in fact. And it's something. Meet the Danra, which is apparently the mixture of a male donkey and a female zebra. I wish that I was making this up, but I'm not. And that's the problem. I'm not really too sure what to make of this thing. First off, it does look like a hybrid, so it's got that going for it. But aside from that, do I really want this to be a true species? Its striped legs definitely give away its zebra heritage, while its overall build and demeanor lean more toward a donkey. It's kind of a genetic mashup that makes you do a double take. It's unclear if it was a natural thing. Based on the species involved, that would seem to be a great bet. The zoo has assured the public that the animal is healthy, despite its unusual genetics. But even if it wasn't, it's still weird. There were some complications at the animal's birth, but apparently it got better over time. This is definitely a rare creature, and I'd be shocked if it happened again. Still, it makes you wonder what other bizarre hybrids nature, or perhaps humans, might produce next. What did you think of this look at all the hybrids of the world that were either created naturally or made by people to serve a purpose? Did some of these hybrid animals gross you out like they did me? Did you find any of them kind of cool? Let me know all about it in the comments below. Be sure to check out the other cool stuff showing up on the screen, and I'll see you next time.